Chapter 1 Being a cannon fodder is probably a happy life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Ci, the clan leader wants all ninjas at the security hall, pronto. Got it, I'm on my way. Uchiha nodded, his face cool as he fished a discarded can out of the river. The Uchiha Chunin who delivered the message looked surprised, and before he left, he leaned in to say, "Hey, the third Kazekage is missing. Things are getting dicey at the border. We're looking at a full-blown ninja war. You're just a genin. Don't go biting off more than you can chew." The Chunin frowned, glancing at what Uchiha Ci was doing. "You're an Uchiha. You should be training, getting stronger, not wasting time on garbage detail." With that, he vanished, *whoosh star. The second the Chunin was gone, Uchiha Ci's eyes lit up with barely contained glee. He tossed the makeshift spear he'd been using to clean the river, hopped onto the water, and leaped to the bank. He dumped the can into a sack. Sweet. Is the ninja war finally kicking off? Uchiha Ci was practically vibrating with excitement. Finally, a way out of this dump. I've been sweating bullets all year. Picking up trash, rescuing kittens, babysitting, dredging rivers. How's a guy supposed to die with honor doing that? Uchiha sighed with relief, his hands shaking. I'm finally going home. It's pretty obvious this isn't the same Uchiha Ci from the history books. He's a time traveler, but not just any time traveler, he's a chosen one, plucked from the masses by fate itself. Why a chosen one? Simple. He gets a random talent roll, then gets dropped into various crises to rewrite history, avert tragedies, and drag society kicking and screaming toward a happy ending. Pull it off, and Uchiha Ci gets a massive bonus and a ticket home. Fail, screw things up, or go against the grain, and he gets Thanos snapped out of existence when the timeline wraps up. Of course, even fate has insurance policies. If this chosen one dies in the line of duty while saving the world, he gets a payout, a cool $500 million to go back to the real world with. The bar can't be lower than the original timeline, and suicide voids the policy. Uchiha Ci has been waiting for this moment. The original version lost his parents young and was constantly bullied by the clan for his mediocre skills. He was still just a genin. Nobody in the Naruto series remembers this guy. Probably died in the Third Ninja War, or during the Ninetales attack, or the Uchiha Massacre. Cannon fodder. And what's the destiny of cannon fodder? Uchiha didn't even have to think. The battlefield. Get out there, get shanked, and even the most stingy insurance company has to cough up the cash. And wouldn't you know it? It's the eve of the Third Ninja War. Tsunegakure, having lost the third Kazekage, is about to formally declare war on Konoha and push the front lines, which means all-out war. The Battle of Green Lair Reef, Mist Village, the invasion of the Land of Sky, the Third Raikage's last stand against 10,000, the Rain Village Showdown, the Dragon Souls, the Canopy Bridge, the Battle of Platycodon Mountain, the legendary ninjas, the bloodiest war ever. All the backroom deals, all the greedy power plays, everything's about to explode. Uchiha Ci figured, with so many classic battles brewing, even a scrub like him could find a nice, clean death. Get blown up just right, and boom, instant payout. Sure, the odds sucked, and maybe only 1 in 10,000 made it out alive, but Uchiha Ci was surprisingly zen about the whole thing. After all, there's still the Ninetales attack and the Uchiha Massacre down the line. Not that Uchiha Ci hadn't considered going the hero route and rewriting history. He had plenty of gripes with the Naruto world, but after looking at the facts, he realized there was no way he was going to one-up Naruto. All the chosen one perks in the world couldn't fix his shortcomings when it came to top-tier battles. He couldn't even activate his Sharingan. He wasn't descended from the right bloodline for Indra's power, nor did he have access to the power of the 6 paths to genetically mutate, and he wasn't smart enough to build his own Gundam and become a techno-god. He's stuck. He didn't have the Deduct 1 to unlock a kaleidoscope cheat code that you hear about, and even a legit company like Fate wasn't going to hand out freebies that easily. The talents he'd rolled so far were worthless. He couldn't see any way a normal guy like him could make a difference, so, when Uchiha Ci realized he could cash in and use the insurance, his whole perspective shifted. $500 million? Don't mind if I do. Saving the world. Let's just say, believe in Naruto. As for Uchiha Ci, on the eve of this chaotic ninja war, find a good spot, punch out, and die trying. Imagine Sarutobi Hiruzen, bawling his eyes out at his memorial. This has gotta be a war mobilization meeting. There's bound to be some seriously dangerous missions up for grabs, and I can't let anyone beat me to M. Gotta move. This is about dying for Konoha, baby. Let's go. Uchiha's eyes were fixed on the prize. He yanked off his river boots and bolted toward the security department. He didn't even grab his trash sack or his spear. Nearby, Uchiha Shisui was leaping across the rooftops, heading to the same place. He just happened to overhear Uchiha Ci's words. He stopped dead, nearly losing his balance. Then, his eyes widened. Is there someone else in the Uchiha clan thinking like me? Uchiha Shisui watched Uchiha Ci sprint off into the sunset, and touched his chin. But the clan leader's mission is really dangerous. Can't let someone so young and enthusiastic get themselves killed. Uchiha Shisui's gaze hardened. He was a good, upstanding kid who loved the village. He understood Uchiha Ci's desire to fight for it, but that kind of fire could easily lead to reckless decisions, like volunteering for suicide missions to prove yourself. Too many good people died for that kind of pride. Tragic, and Uchiha Shisui wasn't about to let that happen. Especially not when those 2 missions about to be handed out were practically a death sentence. A plea for support for the new book, for reading, for everything. This book summarizes the previous mistakes, learns from the experience, makes a perfect outline, and arranges it more neatly. Please feel free to enter the book. Lost will try its best to show everyone a different ninja world. From the perspective of the protagonist, it cuts from the ninja war to the games between small countries, small organizations, and big countries, the elimination of blood successors, the fusion of the blood dragon eye and the Sharingan, and the immortality of the evil god cult, the hydration of the ghost lamp, the kaleidoscope awakening that refers to the mythological system of the small days, and the explosive plot turning point, the forbidden power of blasphemy in a mortal body. In addition, you are welcome to join the group and touch the author's dog head, 7919822259, above, bared teeth.jpg, thank you. Chapter 2 Uchiha Shisui, if you want to die, have you asked me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Konoha Security Department, beneath the red and white, ping-pong paddle-shaped Uchiha crest, a group of Uchihas milled around the security department lobby, checking out available assignments. A handsome young man, Uchiha Ci, stood among them, his eyes glued to the task board. Normally, assignments were posted at the Hokage building, but Ci wasn't a registered Konoha ninja. He was more like the cannon fodder the 5 great nations threw together during the 4th Shinobi World War. He belonged to the Uchiha clan first. Sure, he wore a Konoha dog tag, but it wasn't quite the same. Most tasks came directly from the village to the clan, then were posted internally like this. It was more about participation and lending a hand where you could, but, damn it, this wasn't cutting it for Uchiha Ci, seriously. Not a single mission near the border. He was floored. The most dangerous places right now had to be those gray areas between the land of fire and the land of wind, especially spots like the land of rain and the valley. Yet the task board was a wasteland. No border patrols, no escorting supplies across the border, no tracking down enemy officials for assassination. All tasks were contained within the land of fire. A bunch were even D-rank, finding lost cats, delivering letters, plowing fields, the works. The most dangerous C-rank mission he was cleared for: chasing a wild boar that escaped from the forest of death back into the woods. Are you kidding me? I thought I'd be dead the second I left the village, Ci thought, wanting to cry. How is this any different from what I've been doing? Disheartened, Ci shook his head and resigned himself to the boar wrangling mission. Maybe he could sneak the pig an extra meal or 2. Just then, a younger hand snatched the assignment right in front of him. Sorry, but I'll take this one. A handsome young man with a winning smile, dressed in a black turtleneck and shorts, and carrying what looked like a pair of ribs, faced Ci, that dumpling nose. Ci recognized him instantly. It was the Uchiha prodigy, Shisui. Before he really made a name for himself, Ci's face fell. Seriously? You're a registered ninja. What do you need a clan mission for? Sorry, Uchiha Ci, Shisui said earnestly. This mission will help me sharpen my skills, and I'll even give you the reward. But please, let me have this chance. With a smile that bright, Ci couldn't say no. Besides, it was a C-rank mission, probably not life-threatening. He'd have plenty of chances to die once the Ninja World War kicked off. He was more surprised. You know me? Of course, he knew Shisui, but the other way around. That caught him off guard. Sure, we did D-rank missions together. Don't you remember? Shisui smiled, playing along. Maybe, Ci mumbled. He'd done so many, they all blurred together. He wasn't interested in befriending characters from the original story, even if it meant messing up the future and stopping Naruto from saving the world. He would rather die and go back home than have that on his conscience. He ignored Shisui and went back to the board. Shisui, for his part, had just spotted Ci's name in the mission log. He was floored by what he saw. Uchiha Ci, Genin, 1 year experience, missions completed, 855 D rank, 0 C rank. This nobody was a mission machine, averaging 2 or 3 D ranks a day, never taking a break all year. It was insane. Ci had no idea his record would shock Shisui. He'd only done those missions to see if he could die from overwork. If he knew Shisui had pegged him as some kind of hero, he'd probably scream. This is a disaster. It only confirmed for Shisui that Ci was no ordinary Uchiha but Genin working that hard. He was burning himself out for the village. Shisui ignored Ci's cold shoulder and moved closer. Hey! What are you doing? Ci yelped. Hold up, Ci thought, does Uchiha Shisui have a thing for older men? Shisui just figured his new friend was a bit shy, so he leaned in and whispered, Ci, I know what you're thinking. Ci's eyes widened. Did you read my mind? How do you know I want to cash in on a life insurance policy? The Elder Council is holding a meeting soon, and there'll be 2 very dangerous missions up for grabs, Shisui said gravely. But don't worry, I won't let you volunteer. Like a devil whispering in his ear, Ci shuddered. He stared at Shisui, wondering if the guy had some kind of mind-reading jutsu. Is he trying to steal my death wish? Still, those missions did sound interesting. What kind of missions? Ci whispered back, making them sound like they were plotting something. So, you are that kind of person. Shisui exclaimed, impressed. He was more certain than ever that Ci was a true hero. He made up his mind that he wouldn't let Ci die on some dangerous mission. Talent like that shouldn't be wasted. Uchiha talent should be a bridge between the village and the clan. Just then, an old man with gray hair, a half-face mask, wearing only the high-collared black robe of the Uchiha clan and no Konoha forehead protector, climbed to the top of the security hall. His hawk eyes pierced through everyone. Ci recognized him instantly. Uchiha Setsuna, the sole remaining elder of the Uchiha clan. A badass who had once tried to assassinate the second Hokage and lived. To tell the tale, he was, without a doubt, the most hawkish member of the Uchiha. Everyone in the room turned to look at him, some with respect, some with hatred, some with indifference. I imagine you all have some idea why I've called you here. Setsuna's calm voice echoed through the hall. The war is about to start. With the disappearance of the third Kazekage, the ninja world has slowly descended into chaos. Here in the Land of Fire, border skirmishes are intensifying. The latest reports indicate that small-scale battles have already broken out in the Land of Rain. And beyond that, Iwagakure and Kirigakure have been at each other's throats for years. It looks like war is inevitable. Yunin's barbarians have been pushing into the Land of Lightning. War is coming to the ninja world. However, Setsuna paused, his voice turning cold. We, the Uchiha, have weathered 1,000 years of war. This is nothing. We need 2 teams of upper, middle and lower-level ninjas to support the garrison of Hell Valley in the Land of Rain. Genin don't have to volunteer. Jonin and Chunin will decide for themselves. If we don't have enough volunteers, I will name names. Silence descended on the room. The names Land of Rain and Hell Valley sent shivers down many spines. Sia wanted to jump up and volunteer. It is our duty to restore the glory of Uchiha. Suddenly, He felt dizzy and his body trembled. A emotionless voice echoed in his mind. The talent has arrived. Heart of Steel, SSS please, let me steal again. Steel, door /. Chapter 3 in 3 words, let Uchiha open the Sharingan for me. When? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Heart Steel is a seriously OP piece of gear in this game. Its effect is simple. You get stronger by taking hits. Uchiha Ci knows all about this kind of stuff. He's a veteran 10,000 brawls player, specializing in Steel Gate Shaun, level 7, the key is selling that first hit. Go ahead, smack me. I'll let you have the first one, bro, the more you take, the stronger you get, the tankier you become. And now, just when he's trying to die, this talent pops up. Hopefully, it won't mess with his insurance scam, right? Uchiha's face was blank, but a bad feeling was starting to bubble in his gut. He doesn't know what this talent even does yet. The heavens haven't exactly dropped a user manual on him. Right now, the most pressing thing is to take that mission from Great Elder Setsuna Uchiha. Before this cheat code can even activate, he needs to get his butt on the battlefield and let some Iwagakure ninja chop him to pieces. Insurance fraud. Here we come. That's priority number 1. But Uchiha Ci still felt uneasy. Then he looked back. The source of his anxiety was standing right there beside him. That little devil Uchiha Shisui was giving him this subtle, knowing smile, whispering just loud enough for him to hear. Uchiha Ci, don't worry. I'll handle the elder's mobilization request. You should stay here in the clan and train. The hairs on Uchiha's neck stood on end, and sweat beaded on his forehead. Dude, he thought, why don't you go bother Fugaku's oldest son? What are you scheming, staring at me like that? Uchiha Ci didn't hesitate. He bolted from the crowd before Shisui could react. He raised 3 fingers to the sky, swore an oath in a booming voice. Elder. Rebuilding the glory of the Uchiha is our sacred duty. I fear no danger. Please, send me to the front lines. Uchiha stepped forward, bellowing at the top of his lungs. His voice echoed, lingering in the air. He raised his arms with conviction, his face set with determination. Neither the downpours of the Rain Country, nor the fragrant hot springs of the U Country can sway my commitment to the Uchiha clan. If someone must be sacrificed, then I hope that person is me. Everyone turned to look, a hint of admiration in their eyes. Whose soldier is this? So brave, Ci. What are you doing? Shisui couldn't stop him in time. A look of shock washed over his face, his voice laced with sorrow. Even though they haven't known each other long, he had decided Uchiha Ci was a true comrade, someone whose back he could count on. But, why did he just turn around and volunteer himself for death? What? Is this what it feels like to lose a friend? This, Shisui's face flushed as he held back. He felt an almost uncontrollable urge to drag Uchiha home, tie him up, and give him a serious thrashing. Shisui's eyes, trained to their limit, turned scarlet without him even realizing it. A tomo spun rapidly in the Sharingan, radiating an aura of grief, the awakening opportunity, loss of a comrade. Like fate, it had been triggered early, however. You're too weak. You'd be useless. The great elder Uchiha frowned, glancing down at Uchiha Ci, wondering where this idiot came from. He's just a genin, hasn't even unlocked his Sharingan. He's just dead weight. Hearing that, Uchiha Ci's determined expression froze. He looked like he could cut someone with those sharp edges. The boy's embarrassment was deafening. Did you hear that? Uchiha Ci is screaming inside. Uchiha instantly despises you. At that moment, a giant red LMAO appeared in Uchiha Ci's vision, plastered on Uchiha's face. Clouds shifted, casting a shadow across Uchiha Setsuna's face, but those eyes, filled with contempt, were burned into Uchiha's memory. A wave of anger surged through him. Okay, so he's a bit of a loser right now, but to tear into him like that, elder. That's crossing the line. You break my wings, I'll wreck your paradise. Great elder. Uchiha's face hardened. He stepped forward again, his voice stern. It's not about being useless. I know my abilities are limited. I haven't unlocked my Sharingan yet. Uchiha raised his voice. But genin aren't responsible for frontline combat. Mostly, they stick to the edges of the battlefield doing support work. Besides, other clans are sending genin to the rain country. If we Uchiha don't send a single one, won't we look bad in comparison? Everyone gasped, staring at Uchiha Ci with a mix of shock and disbelief. He had a point, but the guy he was arguing with? He's a freaking legend, the guy who tried to assassinate the second Hokage. The head of the Hawk faction and Uchiha Great Elder. His influence within the Uchiha clan? Off the charts. Unmatched. Godlike. For words to describe it. Kid, are you nuts? Where did you get the guts? Hearing this, Uchiha Setsuna's face darkened. Is this kid giving me lip? He thought, a useless genin who hasn't even awakened his Sharingan, daring to talk back to him. That's like a pig flying. Unreal, but, a thought flickered in Uchiha's mind, isn't this the kind of raw material I need? Uchiha narrowed his eyes, pondering, as the leader of the Hawks, his job is to cultivate members within the clan, and that involves more than just talent, character is even more important. Especially those, headstrong kids with extreme personalities. The ones who'll throw their lives on the line for the future of the Uchiha without a second thought. And the more rebellious this kid is now, the more fiercely loyal he'll be to the clan later. During the coup, why wouldn't he chop off Hiruzen Sarutobi's head? Uchiha Setsuna, a coup professional, dared to guarantee, no one understands coups like he does. People like Uchiha Ci are top-tier cannon fodder for a coup. So, he can't let this kind of talent die on some stupid mission serving Konoha. Thinking this way, Uchiha Setsuna's expression shifted from grim to gleeful, a dark smile spreading across his face. Everyone who saw Uchiha Setsuna's smile felt a shiver run down their spines, even Uchiha Ci felt a little uneasy, not that he was afraid of the old man, he was just wondering, if the old man offed him in a rage, would his medical insurance cover it? Yes. The Heavenly will immediately delivered an answer. Uchiha Ci's eyes lit up, this time, no more panic. He straightened his back and stared right back. Uchiha Setsuna almost burst out laughing at Uchiha Ci's defiant look. He forcibly resisted the urge to string the kid up and give him a good thrashing. He thought of his vision, took a deep breath. He decided to give the kid another way out. He glared down with cold eyes and growled. Naive. Ridiculous. If the battlefield were as rosy as Uchiha made it out to be, Uchiha wouldn't mind sending a few genin out to experience it, but reality is brutal. Those sent to the front lines aren't ninjas anymore, they're just cannon fodder. Uchiha stared at Uchiha Ci for a long moment. Can you even understand what I'm saying, kid? But Uchiha Ci just bared his teeth in a wild grin, stretched his neck, and patted it, like meat on a butcher's block. What's the deal, Great Elder? Kill me if you can. If you can't, send me to the battlefield. It was like he had reached some critical point. Uchiha Ci heard a crisp sound in his ear. Ding. Chapter 4 Mission, Go to Hell Valley. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Silence hung heavy in the air, so thick you could hear a pin drop. Every Uchiha present looked stricken, holding their breath. They were afraid that Uchiha Setsuna would snap and butcher Uchiha right then and there. Setsuna Uchiha, under everyone's intense gaze, wore a thunderous expression. After being brazenly slapped down like that, even his legendary patience had reached its limit. His eyes flashed with a scarlet, icy light as the three tomo in his Sharingan spun, locked onto Uchiha Ci. A palpable murderous aura filled the room. It felt like any second, the elder was going to draw his sword and slice Uchiha to ribbons. But Uchiha Ci, oblivious to the suffocating tension, was staring blankly at the text that had just appeared before his eyes. Ding. You boldly challenged Uchiha Setsuna and received a random skill from him, Uchiha style, Silk Shuriken technique, mastered. Your heart steel level has increased. For a moment, Uchiha Ci was stunned as a torrent of knowledge flooded his mind. Every aspect of shuriken techniques, from the wire's materials to the subtle throwing motions, the hidden power, the ingenious tricks, it all flashed through his mind. Instantly, he understood, analyzed, mastered, and became proficient, bypassing the countless hours of training usually required. He skipped straight to muscle memory honed in life-or-death situations, until, mastered. Uchiha Ci had mastered the Uchiha-style shuriken technique at the highest level. Huh? What the heck is going on? Uchiha murmured, baffled. No joke, with this level of skill, young Sasuke's wind shuriken tricks were child's play. Shuriken mastery takes time and effort to accumulate. At this level, Sasuke would have to be on Momoshiki Otsutsuki's level to even compete, but he just faced the great elder Uchiha Setsuna, and suddenly, boom. He got it. But then, remembering Uchiha Setsuna's legendary feat of surviving an assassination attempt on the second Hokage, Uchiha Ci relaxed a little. Is this the confidence of the older generation of Uchiha ninjas? Honestly, this was an awesome power-up. Sweet, but why hasn't the great elder chopped me into pieces yet? The silence stretched on. After 3 minutes, Elder Uchiha simply looked away, speechless. He'd finally realized that this Uchiha was just a clueless idiot who didn't even know what fear was. Under his murderous glare, the kid had just stared back with wide, innocent eyes. If he kept staring, the situation would become ridiculous. Uchiha finally scoffed. Since you're so eager to throw your life away for Konoha, I won't stop you. You, step forward. Uchiha was startled. He snapped back to reality, looking up at the elder with a face of utter dismay instead of the expected joy. Wait, that's not how this was supposed to go. Uchiha Ci had only said those things with the intention of getting killed on the spot. It was just a couple of weird jokes. Great elder, why are you sending me to my death? Just off me with a sword. You're supposed to be a hawk. Where's your spine? Resign. Uchiha Shisui sighed quietly. Looking at Uchiha Ci's face, it was obvious the younger man knew how dangerous the war was. Cijuan is pale with fright. But he still stood up bravely. With a flash of his Sharingan, Uchiha Shisui stepped forward, speaking solemnly to Uchiha. Great Elder, the mission still lacks a genin. Please allow me to join the battle. Uchiha's eyes narrowed as he looked at Shisui. You're Kagumi's grandson, aren't you? Shisui. Yes. And if I may be so bold, I wish to be assigned to the Land of Rain mission. Uchiha didn't respond verbally, only glanced briefly at him before turning back to assigning tasks to the other ninja. It was tacit approval. Uchiha Setsuna, as the leader of the Hawks within the Uchiha clan, naturally had a non-confrontational relationship with the Dove faction, and he didn't need to worry about Shisui's development. The Doves within the clan would naturally train him, given his early graduation from the academy and the activation of his Sharingan, his genius, and his status as a close relative of the former clan leader's grandson. Compared to Shisui, Uchiha Setsuna was more concerned with Uchiha Ci's issue. Although the Hawk's philosophy of developing talent was to throw kids off a cliff, those who could fly would naturally become soaring eagles with free will. Being unable to fly and falling to the bottom and becoming a piece of sh*t might be considered a blessing in this increasingly chaotic era, but Uchiha Ci, he was rushing to fly before all his hair had even grown, showing an unbelievable level of stubbornness. Even he, a very extreme Hawk leader, felt that this kid was a bit too extreme. Soon, the assignments were complete. Uchiha scanned the crowd with a cold gaze, announcing indifferently. For the Land of Rain battlefield, a team composed of Jonin Shinichi as captain, a special Jounin assistant, and Genin Shisui will arrive at the border camp first to await arrangements. A Flying Eagle message has been sent, and Uchiha members will assist during the introduction. And let me remind you all, your life belongs to Uchiha and to yourselves, not to Konoha. You'd better understand that. For the Hell Valley of the Land of Rain, I will serve as captain, and Chunin Seiichiro and Genin Ci will form a team to assist the Hell Valley garrison. Team members will gather at the village entrance at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's all. Dismissed. Uchiha Setsuna had always been decisive. After announcing the assignments, he immediately disappeared. The ninja present looked at each other for a moment and dispersed quickly, the security department not having a single idle member. Soon, only Uchiha Shisui and the brooding Uchiha Ci remained in the room. Uchiha Ci frowned slightly. Because of Shisui's intervention, he'd ended up assigned to Hell Valley. He'd have preferred the meat grinder of the Land of Rain. The Land of Rain had been fought from the eve of the Ninja War to the end of the Ninja War for a full 5 years. During the period, the three parties of Yen, Sand, and Cloud worked together to advance the front line, from the Kingdom of Rain all the way into the Kingdom of Fire. Finally, the Third Ninja War broke out, with Konoha's most devastating battle, the Battle of Platycodon Mountain. That's why Uchiha Ci wanted to go there, because it was a true meat grinder of a battlefield, but others are very gentle, and it's already a great luck to be able to get the task. He could only accept the results of the task assignment and had no other choice. He was thinking about another question. In the original timeline, Uchiha Shisui would have had no choice but to go to the Land of Rain, then join the battle against Kirigakure. Without Uchiha Ci taking the initiative to seize a spot, the doves wouldn't allow Shisui to make arbitrary choices. Even if Shisui took the initiative to stand up, he would definitely be assigned to the relatively safe Kirigakure front. And in the end, he'd come to be known as Shunshin Shisui. Now, because of his appearance, the plot line had begun to change quietly, like the flapping of a butterfly's wings. Would Uchiha Shisui die in the Land of Rain because of this? Without Shisui in the future, would Itachi Uchiha awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan and become the psychopath who slaughtered the entire clan? Uchiha Ci suddenly realized that his very existence, his actions motivated by a desire to cheat the system, had already set off a chain of unpredictable consequences. Ahead, a fog seemed to have enveloped the area so that one could not see anything at all. This made him shudder violently. Collected, read it, man, bang 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 asterisk. Chapter 5 The Country of Tang, the Land of Chaos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ci, Shisui Uchiha said, stepping forward and giving Ci Uchiha a pat on the shoulder. He noticed the slight tremor that Ci had just made. Because Shisui had graduated early and was still young, he was a little on the short side, making his attempt at comfort a bit comical. Don't sweat it too much. I didn't expect Elder Setsuna to personally lead the team on your mission. That probably means the risks on your end aren't that high. Shisui flashed a reassuring smile, trying to sound comforting. He was heading off to the more dangerous rain country, yet he was here, trying to put Ci at ease. Ci snapped back to reality and looked at him, exasperated. Seriously? Even if someone snatches my pig feeding duty, are they really going to swipe a job that's likely to get me killed? Can a guy catch a break? Ci, gotta wrap up my mission before tomorrow's get-together, so I'll see you later. Shisui waved the C-rank mission file he'd just received and took off. After Shisui left, Ci Uchiha's eyes darted back and forth. Is Hell Valley in Yuno country really that low risk? Something doesn't smell right. That night, the full moon peeked through the clouds, bathing the earth in its clear light. Inside the Uchiha compound, Ci Uchiha, in his wooden clogs, casually slid open the door to a room. Inside, a sea of Sharingan eyes suddenly blazed to life. Great Elder! A chorus of greetings rang out as Ci Uchiha moved to the head of the room and sat cross-legged. Beside him sat Yashiro Uchiha, second in command of the Hawk faction. Below them were nearly 100 Uchiha clan members, all Chunin level or higher and Sharingan awakened. This was the core of the Hawks. Great Elder, weren't we supposed to send a group of our best fighters to the Land of Lightning? Yashiro frowned slightly, voicing his question. Why is there a genin on the list? And one who hasn't even unlocked his Sharingan yet. Didn't you explain the risks of this mission to the clan? Ci Uchiha picked up his teacup, glanced at Yashiro, and stated calmly, I'll be going on this mission myself. Just me. That's all that's needed. But this isn't just about a change in the Blood Pond clan or heightened guard pressure, Yashiro Uchiha countered, furrowing his brow. The Land of Rain is wedged between the fire, lightning, and water countries. Plus, Iwagakure and Sunagakure have both been having small-scale skirmishes with Kirigakure lately. That whole place is a total mess. It's crawling with spies and combat troops from every corner of the world. Not to mention all the little outfits that popped up in the smaller countries after the Second Ninja War, like the Shenyuan clan, Prajna clan, the Evil God cult, Earth Spider, and the remnants of the Kajiro Flame Village. Kiri's demolition squads from Kirisame, Anin, and Iwagakure, Raza who made military exploits on the Kirigakure front in order to ascend to the position of Kazekage, and the bounty hunter in the underground gold exchange. That whole area is a powder keg, Yashiro Uchiha concluded, shaking his head, thinking that Setsuna Uchiha was being a bit overconfident. In that kind of situation, even the third Hokage himself might struggle to make a difference. Setsuna Uchiha might be an old-timer from the Warring States period, but bringing just one genin and one chunin seemed a little inadequate. Then again, the clan's manpower was already stretched thin. The Konoha police force was hamstrung by Konoha and couldn't leave the village without a solid reason. Yashiro Uchiha piped up, maybe we could ask Konoha for backup. Enough, Ci Uchiha said, setting down his teacup, his tone leaving no room for argument. I'm all that's needed. Yashiro, the Hell Valley garrison mission doesn't come from Konoha. It's a long-term contract the Land of Lightning's daimyo made directly with the Uchiha. It's also one of the few reliable sources of income we have right now. Don't pin your hopes on others, especially not Konoha, Sarutobi, or Danzo. Ci Uchiha lifted his head, his Sharingan eyes blazing with cold intensity. Only what you control matters. Relying on handouts means bowing and scraping like a dog. And if someone gets tired of you, they can kick you to the curb anytime. Yashiro Uchiha fell silent, subdued by his words. Ninjas were weapons, not producers. The Uchiha's wealth, besides their ancestral businesses and real estate in Konoha, came almost entirely from undertaking large-scale missions as a clan. The annual reward for guarding the Blood Pond clan was on par with an S-rank mission, long-term, stable money. That was also why Ci Uchiha wasn't about to let Konoha stick its nose into it. *snap, Ci Uchiha opened the door to his apartment. A soot-covered young man wearing goggles tumbled out of the tree in the yard. Ci Uchiha could tell right away that he'd fallen because he hadn't maintained proper chakra distribution while practicing tree walking and lost his grip. Obito, what are you up to now? Seeing the unexpected visitor, Ci Uchiha couldn't help but sigh. It was Obito, who just graduated from the Ninja Academy last year. He was also Ci's next-door neighbor. Oh, hey, Ci. I'm training for the Chunin exams. Obito Uchiha scratched the back of his head sheepishly, then frowned. That jerk Kakashi is using his Chunin status to boss me around and make me do whatever he says. And all it is a simple cat-catching mission. Just wait until I've trained, I'll throw my Chunin vest in his face. Obito Uchiha fumed, explaining what happened. Ci Uchiha was caught off guard by this, then it clicked, without realizing it. He'd spent a whole year in Konoha, during a relatively peaceful period. He was just realizing that the timeline had progressed to this point. Obito had already formed a three-man squad with Kakashi and Noara Rin last year, led by Minato Namikaze, and they'd been grinding through D-rank missions for a while. However, Obito's dream of becoming a Chunin this year probably wouldn't come true. The Ninja World War was about to kick off. Namikaze Minato, as an elite Jonin, was about to be deployed to the front lines. The team would likely be following Minato around all year. It wouldn't be until the Land of Lightning slowed down its offensive, giving Konoha some breathing room, that a Chunin exam would be held in Konoha 48, and it was at that time that Obito would be seriously injured by Might Guy's kick. Although he was defeated, he would finally be promoted to Chunin. Why are you spacing out? Grandma made noodles, come on over and eat. Obito waved his hand in front of Ci Uchiha's face, tilting his head. Alright, let me put my stuff away. Ci Uchiha nodded, accepting the offer. On the way back, he passed by the river and retrieved his sandals, but the sack of cans he'd been collecting for scrap money was gone, stolen by some lowlife. Ci Uchiha cursed under his breath. The world's going to hell. Something like this wouldn't have happened in Konoha last year. That is to say, the Uchiha of the Konoha military police force has recently been affected by the coming war. Too many meetings and no time to take care of things. This has caused the current trend of petty theft in Konoha to rise. Chapter 6 Ninja Cat Contract, Ninja Way. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After grabbing a bite at Obito's place and listening to him ramble about stuff Minato-sensei told him, Uchiha said his goodbyes and headed out. Ci and Obito Uchiha became friends because Obito's grandma lived next door and was always popping over to say hi. They hit it off pretty quickly. Unlike other characters in Naruto, Uchiha Ci knew how to handle Obito. After all, forewarned is forearmed. No matter how tight you are with him, he'll still stab you in the back once he goes dark. Leaving Obito's place, Uchiha Ci strolled down the streets of Konoha, his wallet in his pocket. The war hadn't fully hit the civilian population yet, and Konoha still looked peaceful on the surface, but there were signs, little hints of what was coming. Uchiha pushed aside the shop curtain and walked into a ninja supply store. "Hey, Ci, back for more explosive tags?" the store manager asked, grinning. "Nah, shurikens this time." "Figures. Shuriken and kunai prices are up 20%, and special wires jumped 30%. I'd still advise stocking up. Word from Granny Cat is these essentials are just gonna keep going up." "Alright, give me 6 ninja tool sets with wire spools and 2 big rolls of silk thread. And a sealing scroll. Let's see. I've still got 200,000 left. Trade it all for detonating tags." Uchiha Ci patted his wallet and grinned, not sweating it at all. D-rank missions usually paid between 5,000 and 10,000 taels, sometimes a few hundred, but Uchiha Ci never took those. He always did missions solo, so he kept all the cash. This year he'd been working like crazy and actually saved up a 7-figure sum, and that money was for just this moment. "Whoa, Ci, you're going all out." The store manager looked surprised. Uchiha Ci was spending more than some jonin. Uchiha Ci just smiled. He didn't have a family to support, just an account to blow up. Different from those ninjas scrambling to save for retirement, ninja tool prices were all over the place. Detonating tags were 2,000 taels a pop. Shurikens were dirt cheap at about 50 taels. Kunai ranged from 200 to 30,000 taels, depending on whether they were for throwing or blocking. Huge difference. A good ninja tool set, with throwing weapons, melee weapons, and protective gear, cost nearly 200,000. Katanas and ninja swords were even crazier. A basic practice sword started at 3,000 taels. Chakra metal weapons were insane, priceless, more like something you trade a soma for. So, why was Uchiha Ci buying so much stuff? Simple. Uchiha Ci wanted to die, but he couldn't just kill himself on purpose. Sounds messed up, but that was it. If you deliberately offed yourself, the universe would call you out as a fraud. You'd get nothing out of it, just a wasted life. But, if a ninja, full of courage, throws all of his money into a worthy cause and dies doing what's right, who is to say that he did not die valiantly? It's like if Kennedy had died when he was younger, right? "I will fight until I'm all out of blood." Why won't the health insurance system allow this? Soon, the manager came back with a mountain of supplies. The 6 ninja tool sets alone were making him sweat. He slammed the stuff on the table, then, like a card shark, he fanned out the stacks of detonating tags so Uchiha could count them. "Ci, buying this much at once, are you heading into something really dangerous?" That the store manager realized Uchiha Ci wasn't buying all this for fun. Uchiha looked up at the manager, frowning. "Don't take this the wrong way. I know the rules about ninja secrets, but I'm in the ninja tool business under Granny Cat, and I hear things. The riskiest assignments right now are going to the Rain Country battlefield or Hell Valley in the land of Tang." The manager's face turned serious. "Either way, it's something you shouldn't even be thinking about with your current skills." The manager didn't mince words. He paused, then glanced at Uchiha, a little embarrassed. "Since you've been a good customer of the Ninja Cat clan, I'll give you a little extra." He pulled out a piece of parchment and put it in front of Uchiha Ci. "This is a one-time contract with the Ninja Cat clan. Sign it, and you can use necromancy to summon a Ninja Cat user." Ninkoji were elite cat ninjas. They were usually in the rougher areas, their base a ruined city known to very few, but unlike normal summoned creatures, ninja cats were independent and almost impossible to control. the clan ran the ninja tool business and had a close relationship with Uchihas who were good with ninja tools. Uchiha Ci knew that Granny Miko, the leader of the ninja clan, had a soft spot for kids. She was always willing to help when she could, especially Uchiha kids, so the manager offering this one-time contract meant he knew Uchiha Ci was probably facing a very bad situation and hoped it would help. The store manager was offering this contract to help Uchiha Ci, but really, he wanted him to back out, give up on the mission. You get what I'm saying, right? The manager stared at Uchiha Ci, his pupils turning into slits. His voice went low. Uchiha Ci smiled and took the contract. Ninja cats were neutral and didn't get involved in ninja wars unless they were paid, so, the main thing this contract did was get you survival supplies and combat weapons in a pinch, but it still cost money. To Uchiha Ci, who'd just blown all his cash, it was just a piece of paper and wouldn't stop him from using his insurance. With that thought, he turned and walked out of the ninja shop. He just said, "Thanks, man. But I gotta do this, even if it means dying. It's my ninja way." Uchiha Ci left the shop, squeezed his wallet, and felt what was left. Then he turned and walked into Konoha's red light district. Tomorrow he'd face death. The thought excited him, but it also scared him a little, so he decided to take care of that fear tonight. 3 minutes later, please like, please read, please follow me on Twitter. Chapter 7 Seiichiro, The Pool of Blood and Glory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Get outta here. This is a respectable establishment, and we don't allow minors. Accompanied by the rough shouts, Uchiha Ci was unceremoniously tossed out the door by two burly guys. Uchiha Ci, clearly annoyed, picked himself up, muttering curses. Respectable establishment, my foot. What kind of place kicks out kids? Tui. Hearing the commotion, several villagers glanced at Uchiha with strange expressions. You think we didn't see through your transformation jutsu? Trying to sneak in like that? The doorman sneered, a look of utter disdain on his face. Beat it. Or I'm dragging your clan elders out here to haul you back home. That threat instantly made Uchiha back down. He shot daggers at the two bouncers. If only social suicide was covered by insurance. Still gawking at the entrance, huh? Want me to call someone? The big guy scowled, threatening to shout inside. Uchiha Ci quickly abandoned his tempting thoughts and fled the alleyway, his face burning with embarrassment. Back on the main street, the crowds had thinned. The full moon silently observed the world below. The early spring wind, still carrying a winter chill, stung his face. Uchiha shivered, and his mind cleared. Just then, Uchiha Seiichiro, a fellow clan member and teammate, stumbled out of the alley, a half-empty bottle clutched in his hand. Spotting Uchiha Ci, Seiichiro gave him a once-over, and when he noticed the dust on his clothes, he couldn't help but grin. Well, if it isn't the pride of the Uchiha clan. What's this? Get yourself bounced. Uchiha's face tightened. Nah, just got trampled by an elephant. You know, normal day. Huh, we all do stupid stuff when we're young. Seiichiro slurred, his face flushed with alcohol. He winked knowingly. Say no more, I get it. I get everything. Especially since we're heading out on that mission soon. Seiichiro's tone turned somber, his eyes shifting as he looked at Uchiha Ci, as if recalling something unpleasant. He frowned abruptly, his voice laced with impatience. You looking to bail? Listen up. Seiichiro paused, narrowing his eyes slightly. Don't expect me to cover for you on this one. Uchiha Seiichiro hates you. Uchiha glanced at the subtitles that suddenly popped up, raised an eyebrow, and calmly replied, Don't worry, Seiichiro-senpai. I won't slow you down. Ha! You still have no idea what you've done. Seiichiro's face darkened at Uchiha's polite response. I have no clue why the Great Elder chose you for this mission. According to our faction's original plan, 3 Jonin-level clan members should be handling this. It was a solid plan. But no, your ninja games and trickery made the Great Elder changed his mind. Now I, a Chunin, get dragged into some death trap. Uchiha Seiichiro's eyes grew colder, and he scoffed. You have no idea what kind of lunatics you're up against on this mission. Without the Sharingan, you're nothing but a plaything to those guys. Uchiha Ci raised an eyebrow slightly. What the heck was in Fire Country? After reading the original, how could he not know it? The destination of this mission, it was the Blood Pond clan in Hell Valley, land of hot water. Their blood dragon eyes reflected the hatred towards the Uchiha clan that has lasted from the Warring States period to this day. Uchiha Seiichiro wasn't wrong. Without the Sharingan, he was at a serious disadvantage against the Blood Dragon Eye, another hereditary eye technique user. The Blood Dragon Eye, this pupil technique blood successor, is very similar to the Sharingan, and both require strong emotional stimulation to open. Unlike the Sharingan, once the Blood Dragon Eye is opened, it has the ability to have hypnotic eyes, illusion amplification, blood escape ninjutsu, and human bombs at the same time, which is enough to compare with the two Magatama Sharingan. As the pupil power increases, more terrifying abilities may be born. For Uchiha who has not yet opened his eyes, or who has just opened his eyes, and whose blood successor ability has been crushed, it is almost a no-win situation when he encounters the ninjas of the Blood Pond clan. Moreover, the Blood Pond clan has been living in a place like Hell Valley where birds do not poop all year round, and everyone has developed exquisite physical skills to hunt birds for food. Their throwing skills are at least at a proficient level. Conventional ninjutsu is also restrained by the Blood Dragon ninjutsu that changes the properties of water in the environment of a blood pool full of boiling springs. All three aspects of tolerance, physical strength, and illusion were crushed. At such a hellish level of difficulty, even if Uchiha Ci possesses the superb Uchiha-style silk shuriken technique, he can only stare blankly. Just don't be too perfect. Uchiha Ci means, what a great enemy. I will do my best to overcome it. Whatever. What would a kid like you know? Uchiha Seiichiro took another swig from the bottle, muttering to himself, his eyes glazed over. I just awakened the second Tomo, and now this happens. He crouched down, clutching his head in his hands, fear etched on his face. Uchiha Ci watched Uchiha Seiichiro crumple to the ground, pursed his lips, sighed, and patted him on the shoulder, offering a silent gesture of support. What he was worried about had come to pass. Because of him, the plot was changed to involve this poor man. Although the two of them were not familiar with each other, Uchiha still felt a little pressure in his heart. He shook his head, and finally he could only say, seriously. Senior Seiichiro, don't worry. I still mean what I said. If someone has to die, it'll be me. Uchiha spoke with heavy emphasis. You just focus on surviving. I've already made peace with the possibility of dying. What was that? Uchiha Seiichiro looked up, surprised. Then, his expression clouded over, and he sighed. In his mind, Uchiha Ci was still just a naive kid, spouting words he didn't understand. Only when this kid truly faces death will he know what fear is. Being from the same clan, what he said today was already too much, and he couldn't bear to be too harsh on the other party. After all, Uchiha Ci is still just a child now. Forget it. Forget it. It is what it is. Seeming to accept his fate, Uchiha Seiichiro grabbed the bottle, pushed past Uchiha Ci, and stumbled towards his home. Under the clear light of the full moon, his slumped figure looked like a lost dog. Suddenly, Seiichiro turned his head slightly and asked in a deep voice. Boy, can you tell me why you did this? Uchiha Ci blinked, startled. He scratched his head, looking awkward. He couldn't exactly say it was for an insurance scam. After a long pause, Uchiha stood in the biting wind, beneath the unforgiving moonlight, and in the shadow of the towering Hokage rock. He slowly clenched his fist and placed it over his heart. Reason? Uchiha Ci's face was dark and indistinct, but his next words were as sharp as a blade piercing through a fragile heart. I've often wondered what a mediocre ninja like me is good for. What's the meaning of the village in Uchiha? But after giving it some thought, I've realized one thing. Without power, nothing can be accomplished. So, I'm willing to throw myself into the flames of war and search for the path for the existence of my medical insurance and these eyes between life and death. Then, use these eyes to light up the world. And restore the glory that belongs to me, Uchiha. Looking at Uchiha Ci standing upright in the cold wind, looking like a statue. Yeah. Uchiha Seiichiro looked at such Uchiha words, nodded slightly, his face softened slightly, and he recalled what Master Shisui, who was also a dove but had an extremely noble status, said to him earlier when he found him. I see. After a moment of silence, Uchiha Seiichiro said those words and left. Uchiha, who was left confused, with evasive eyes and a confused face, scratched his head. Wait, what exactly did you understand? Bang bang bang, everything I wanted to say is on the ground, you know. Chapter 8 Ninja Survival Code, Yun Lei gradually appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 6 a.m., before the alarm even had a chance to blare, Uchiha slapped the thing silent. It had been his personal tormentor for a year. He was already geared up in full protective gear, forehead protector, knee pads, dart protectors on his shins, gloves, foot straps, a book bag strapped to his side, and a ninja pouch on his lower back, slipping on a high-collared black robe emblazoned with the Uchiha clan symbol. He faced the mirror, lifted his hair, pulled down his eyelids, and smirked. Now, I can already see your demise. Hey 8 Sasuke Ko Akatsuki Ouija Picture.jpg. After a moment of enjoying his own awesomeness, right at 6 o'clock sharp, Uchiha vaulted out the window, only to bump into Uchiha Obito next door doing the exact same thing. Yo, you on a mission too? Uchiha gave a curt nod. Don't be late. Again. Are you kidding? Obito Uchiha, am gonna be Hokage. He thumped his chest and launched himself into thin air, plummeting from the second-story window. Uchiha shook his head. Obito, the king of tardiness, was truly a lost cause. He probably twisted an ankle and cracked his head on the way down. Anyone would think he'd just limped back from the Rain Country battlefield, a complete train wreck. He'd have to swing by Konoha Hospital, and by the time he made it to Minato's class, he'd be at least an hour behind, but Uchiha was used to this routine. Ignoring the commotion below, he just grinned and called out. See ya at the memorial stone. Don't forget to burn some incense for me, will ya? Then, he stepped onto the eaves, pushed off with his feet, and shot off towards the rendezvous point. A restless excitement pulsed in his steps. Uchiha Obito, what the? Inside the grand Uchiha clan compound. That's the gist of it, Fugaku-senpai. Uchiha Shisui bowed respectfully to the young man before him, explaining his request. Uchiha Ci. Uchiha Fugaku glanced at the file in his hand, nodding slightly as he noted the name. I believe he could become a bridge between the clan and the village. Senior Fugaku, please keep an eye on my friend while you're in the Rain Country. Understood. Uchiha Fugaku crossed his arms, his expression calm. Go, Shisui. Elder Setsuna and I will be heading to the Rain Country in about half a day. I'll keep your friend in mind. Once you arrive in the Rain Country, make sure to contact our clan members stationed there immediately. Also, be aware of a new local organization that's been popping up in the Rain Country. Uchiha Shisui paused, slightly puzzled. A new organization? Uchiha Fugaku frowned. They call themselves Akatsuki. Their goals are rather idealistic. Still, try and make contact with them. After all, their three leaders are disciples of the legendary Sannin, Jiraiya-sama. They're likely sympathetic to Konoha. Uchiha Shisui nodded slowly, thinking for a moment before murmuring. Akatsuki. 8 a.m., at Konoha's gates. 2 teams, both comprised of Uchiha members, had gathered. The great elder Uchiha Setsuna glanced at the sky, then surveyed the assembled ninjas before announcing. With everyone present, the mission begins immediately. Upon reaching the designated location, each team captain will unroll the mission scroll, explain the objectives, and assign tasks. That's all. Let's move out. Uchiha Setsuna led the way, giving a brief wave to Uchiha Ci and Uchiha Seiichiro, who were standing nearby. Before setting off beyond the village boundaries, the 6 ninjas from the 2 teams barely had time for farewells. Uchiha Shisui flashed a smile at Uchiha Ci, bumping his chest with a clenched fist. Before following his team, Uchiha returned the look, his expression unreadable. He shook his head, not dwelling on it too much. While Uchiha Shisui might have some misconceptions about him, their missions were completely unrelated. one group was headed northwest to the rain country, while the other was going due east, across the long hills, to the water country. There's no way, even if Shisui is in the rain country, he can stop me from biting the dust in the soup country. This time, the biggest threat to my demise has been eliminated. The advantage is mine. Uchiha Ci's team left Konoha village, heading towards the land of rain at a steady pace. The speed and endurance of a ninja are nothing to scoff at. It only took a day to traverse the long, hilly terrain separating the Leaf village from the rain country. None of the three were big talkers, and the trip was mostly silent. Once they left Konoha village and moved beyond the fire country's populated areas, the scenery changed dramatically. Refugees from the rain country making their way south started to become a common sight. The landscape shifted from vibrant green to a bleak, gray wasteland. Dead branches, stripped trees, and despairing faces leaning against them were the images Uchiha saw most often. They were only halfway there. There were signs of ninja activity all around, discarded picnic scraps, hastily set traps, and the feeling of being watched from the shadows kept the team on edge. In the lead-up to the Third Great Ninja War, the small countries caught between the major powers were the most volatile. The Tang ninjas in Hidden Rain Village couldn't protect the land of rain and couldn't bear the consequences of mission failure. Many of them turned rogue, joining the tide of refugees heading into the land of fire. They become bandits, their names added to mission bounty lists. As the day drew to a close, the sun sank, the red hues faded from the sky, and darkness was closing in. Uchiha Setsuna brought the team to a halt. He pulled out the mission scroll, spread it on a nearby rock, and announced sternly, "Gather around. It's time to explain the mission." Uchiha Ci knew this was it. Whether he achieved his goal of dying on a mission today hinged on this moment. The objective of this mission is to reach Hell Valley in the Rain Country and reinforce the Uchiha station there. Where do you think the greatest danger lies? That he turned to face the other two, pausing for emphasis. Uchiha Seiichiro scoffed. Aside from the usual dangers spelled out in the Ninja Survival Guide, it's dealing with the Blood Pond clan's retaliation, right? Those psychos are each more dangerous than the last. Uchiha Ci remained silent, nodding in agreement. He and Seiichiro were on the same page. Moreover, he knew, above those psychos, there's a master. The Blood Pond clan's Oya Castle, or rather, Oya Castle Flame. This filial son, Itachi's predecessor, acting alone, without any outside help, went on a rampage and massacred his entire clan, driving every member of the Blood Pond clan, except his daughter, out of the ninja world. It's almost impossible to imagine how far that guy's blood dragon eye had evolved, compared to the Chino of blood who appeared in the original Sasuke Reiko arc. He wasn't even worthy of carrying his shoes. This was a truly dangerous individual. But, Uchiha shook his head, sighed, closed his eyes, and declared solemnly, "You're wrong. The real danger isn't in the Blood Pond, it's above the Blood Pond." Huh? Uchiha Seiichiro looked bewildered. What the heck? Above the masters, there's an even greater master. Chapter 9 Yun Lei's old story, 3 people become tigers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The bonfire crackled, mirroring the wildness of the night sky. Faint shouts and hurried movements echoed in the distance, carried on the rustling leaves. The 3 of them sat around the campfire in silence. Uchiha glanced at the other 2, his expression grave. The real danger in this mission comes from something unexpected. Just 2 weeks ago, the Blood Pond clan petitioned the Land of Lightning's daimyo for the 3rd time. But the daimyo's envoy, sent to respond, was murdered on the way and his body sold at the underground gold exchange for a bounty. The daimyo is furious and wants to keep the Blood Pond clan imprisoned. Desperate, the Blood Pond clan secretly contacted Kumogakure. In exchange for liberation, the Blood Pond clan will merge into Yunin village, becoming their bloodline limit family. Uchiha Seiichiro was immediately confused. Isn't the Blood Pond already a bloodline limit family of the Land of Lightning? Why would they agree to those terms with Kumogakure? Uchiha shook his head. He'd guessed the reason after reading the original reports. Back during the Warring States period, a daughter of the Blood Pond clan became a concubine to a prominent family in the Land of Lightning. Shortly after, the daimyo died. The Blood Pawn daughter was accused of treachery out of jealousy and the entire clan exiled to Hell Valley. The long and short of it was that the Blood Pawn clan had once been nobility and didn't want to just become ninja, fighting and dying for Yunin village, they'd rather rot in Hell Valley, hoping for a pardon and a return to their status as great nobles of the Land of Lightning. Now that hope was gone, they had no choice but to join the barbarian gang over at Kumogakure. Kumogakure was thrilled. With the ninja world on the brink of war, the Blood Pawn clan would be a powerful asset. The messenger's murder was probably Yunin's doing. Seeing the whole picture, Uchiha Ci felt like a weight had lifted. The great elder Uchiha Setsuna didn't elaborate for Seichiro's benefit, instead stating solemnly, all you need to know is that Kumogakure is the biggest threat. That's it. Our priority is reaching Hell Valley safely and joining the Uchiha already there. Night's coming. Seiichiro, you and Ci will take turns on watch, setting up warning traps around our perimeter. Understood. Uchiha Setsuna waved a dismissive hand, giving Seiichiro the order. Seiichiro hadn't gotten an explanation, but he had gotten stuck with grunt work. Resentment simmered as he got up, muttering curses. At that moment, Uchiha Ci perked up. Why don't we travel at night? Wouldn't that get us to Hell Valley faster? Seiichiro snorted, looking down at him. That's ridiculous. Kid, have you even read the ninja code? The first rule is that ninjas should avoid traveling at night to avoid ambushes. Uchiha Seiichiro despises you. Uchiha shook his head at the notification floating before his eyes. It was true, but if they played it safe and left in the morning, they'd give Kumogakure time to prepare. He left the village for 3 things, to fight, fight, and fight. Besides, Uchiha Ci's suggestion wasn't baseless. Uchiha smiled, standing. Let's break down the situation. It's dark and windy out. Visibility is 0. You couldn't even find toilet paper, let alone squatting enemies. And we're Uchiha. What's there to be afraid of? His confidence came from the Sharingan, the Uchiha bloodline limit. Even in total darkness, the Sharingan's enhanced vision and ability to see chakra flow meant Kumogakure's ambushes would be no problem. If things went by the book, Uchiha Setsuna and Uchiha Seiichiro would probably break through Kumogakure's lines, but he, Uchiha Ci, hadn't awakened the Sharingan. He wouldn't stand a chance in that kind of fight. He might as well just throw himself on their swords as a favor. The great elder Uchiha's eyebrows rose slightly, and he looked up at the gathering clouds. Uchiha Seiichiro sneered. He stepped forward, grabbed Uchiha Ci's collar, hauled him up, and spoke low and menacingly in his ear. Uchiha Ci, let me tell you again. You're the reason I'm stuck on this messed up mission. Uchiha Seiichiro gritted his teeth, his eyes cold and his tone dripping with contempt. Who do you think you are? Are you really going to question the ninja code written by the Nidaime Hokage? Do you even know how many Konoha ninja die every year because they ignore the rules and warnings? Silence fell. The wind died down, and the clouds hung still. Uchiha Ci met Seichiro's angry gaze calmly. He paused, then said evenly, Senior Seiichiro, a ninja climbs a wall because it's easier than going around. Jumping over it is even more trouble. Real ninja smash through walls and keep moving forward. Uchiha grinned, slapped Seichiro's hand away, and said coolly, You're putting the cart before the horse. The words were followed by a deafening thwack in Uchiha Ci's ears. Clang. Hot springs are common in riverbeds within valleys. Kuni, famous for its hot springs, has high mountains and deep valleys. From the land of fire to the land of hot water, from hills to mountains, the only way to cross the border is through those deep mountain valleys. Meanwhile, under a large tree behind the mountain pass, 2 Kumogakure ninja in uniform, long swords at their sides, leisurely grilled meat. A younger Yunin frowned, asking, Leimi-senpai and Tutai-senpai, aren't we being a little too relaxed? Moloi, you worry too much. The elder Leimi, completely at ease, handed over a roasted rabbit leg. We sent a Yunin ahead to keep an eye on them. We'll get a signal the instant they move. Besides, the Uchiha aren't made of steel. They've been traveling all day and they're exhausted. They won't show their faces if they know we're here. Get some rest. We're facing that old geezer Setsuna Uchiha this time. Tomorrow will be a bloodbath. He must die here to ensure the two-tailed Jinchuriki is able to destroy the garrison in Hell Valley. Malloy eyed the three-man team, considered, and relaxed. They had an elite Jonin, a Jonin, and him as a special Jonin. Taking down one aging Uchiha was practically guaranteed. Besides, these three weren't just anyone. Lamy, a veteran Jonin who'd seen the Warring States period, the peace talks of the Second Ninja War, and even the transformation of the Gold and Silver Brothers into the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Countless battles had failed to defeat this old master. He seemed to grow stronger with age. Dodai, an elite Jounin with a single eye and a black hat, was Third Rakich's right-hand man. He possessed the blood succession limit, meltdown. He'd recently served as an examiner for the excellent Bull Thunder Plow hot sword technique. He was at the peak of his powers. Years ago, his strength rivaled a Kage, and he, Malloy, a special Jonin, was the first captain of the Kumogakure Barrier Squad and the presumed successor to the Barrier Squad leadership. With sealing techniques inherited from the Uzumaki clan, he could paralyze a Jonin in an instant. These three were Yunin Village's best. Even another Jonin team couldn't stand against them. Yunin was sparing no expense to secure the Blood Pond clan. They just needed to wait for the Uchiha leader, and bury him and his team there. Please collect and read. This is really important. Chapter 10 Internal Strife, Shooting Phoenix Fairy Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You argued your point well and used logic against Uchiha Seiichiro. You gained the skill, Fire Release, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique, C level, Proficient. Your Heart Steel level has increased. You can now check your Heart Steel stacks and open your skill panel. Uchiha Ci was momentarily stunned, a hint of speechlessness crossing his face. He really didn't want to trigger this talent. He just wanted a good excuse to die. How could this happen? Uchiha focused, and a translucent window appeared before his eyes. Employee, Uchiha Ci. Title, Skyfalling Strongman. Talents, Heart Steel, SSS, Sharingan, Unawakened. B. Combat Intuition, Undeveloped. S. Skills, Uchiha Style, Threaded Shuriken Technique, Excellent. S. Fire Release, Fireball Technique, Basic. C. Fire Release, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique, Proficient. C. Taijutsu, Basic. Heart Steel Stack Count, Expandable. Insurance Status, Paid. Uchiha glanced at it. It was pretty much what he expected. He dismissed the panel with a thought. Besides his talent, he wondered where this combat intuition came from. Everything else was within his predictions. One more panel and one more ninjutsu wouldn't hurt. The panel was just for viewing, and Phoenix Immortal Fire was just a C-level ninjutsu. Fire Release was known for its relatively harmless ninjutsu, all smoke and no fire, so to speak. If he could persuade the other two team members, maybe he could still make his death wish come true, but Uchiha Ci's plan didn't quite match reality. His righteous words only seemed to anger Uchiha Seiichiro. Seiichiro, part of the Uchiha clan's Dove faction, knew the mission's true purpose. He resented being assigned to this task. When Uchiha criticized him, his Sharingan eyes snapped open. Uchiha Ci, are you lecturing me? Seiichiro raised an eyebrow, his tone icy as he glared at Uchiha Ci. How dare a genin who hasn't even awakened his Sharingan preach to me? Looks like you need to learn a lesson. Uchiha's points might have had some merit, but Seiichiro had only agreed to the mission to save his own skin. Night raids were insane and way too dangerous. That's why he was so furious. Seeing Seiichiro's Sharingan flare, Uchiha instinctively averted his gaze, focusing on Seiichiro's chest. Then he saw it. Uchiha Seiichiro grabbed his hair with one hand, gripped his shoulder with the other, and yanked his head down. His knee shot up, aiming for Uchiha Ci's head. Uchiha Ci's pupils shrank. He hadn't expected it. With Elder Setsuna Uchiha standing right there, Uchiha Seiichiro dared to attack him directly. In that instant, Ci sucked in a breath and instinctively moved. Using Seiichiro's downward force, he adjusted his footing, using his waist, back, and legs to twist, turning his face just enough to avoid the knee. At the same time, his hand reached for his lower back, and he flung 3 shurikens. He targeted Uchiha Seiichiro's exposed throat, wrists, and temples. What? Uchiha Seiichiro was shocked, his Sharingan widening. His enhanced vision clearly tracked the rapidly spinning shurikens. He leaned back, releasing Ci's hair to dodge the shurikens. Slightly stunned, a surge of anger erupted. How dare Uchiha Ci resist? Resist his Chunin superior. The two tomo in Seiichiro's Sharingan swirled, his eyes narrowing dangerously. His hands flashed through a series of seals, but Uchiha Ci was already forming seals in mid-air. Tiger Hair Dragon Radoxpore. Fire Release, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique. As Seiichiro finished his last seal, 6 sizable fireballs appeared, hurtling towards him. Immediately after, the air crackled with projectiles. 6 shurikens, 3 kunai, and 6 fireballs swarmed towards him in a fiery barrage. Crap! Seiichiro's eyes widened. The sheer volume made the difference. Even with his Tutomo Sharingan tracking every projectile, it was useless. He had to use the body flicker technique to dodge, but even after the initial 15, Uchiha Ci wasn't done. He had 4 more shurikens between the fingers of his left hand, and it wasn't over yet. Uchiha Ci's right hand reached for the storage scroll at his waist. Unrolling it, the scroll had a large endure written on it. Judging by its length, it held at least 100 ninja tools. Damn. How did this kid get so well equipped? Enough. Uchiha Setsuna's cold voice cut through the air. He appeared between them, casually drawing his ninja sword. The blade flashed in an arc, like a crescent moon. Clang, clang. The sword cleanly batted away the 6 fireballs, 6 shurikens, and 3 kunai. Uchiha Seiichiro, Elder Uchiha sheathed his sword. His eyes were ice cold. Get to work. Seiichiro trembled under the elder's gaze and fell silent. He retreated to set up a warning trap, resentment flickering across his face. He was a Chunin ambushed by Uchiha Ci's barrage of ninja tools. If he got serious, Uchiha Ci wouldn't stand a chance. The conflict diffused. Uchiha Ci sadly gathered the ninja tools. Feeling the sting, the elder's sword had broken 2 of his high-quality kunai. And his crudely made shurikens were split in half. That's money down the drain. Money that should have been spent on a strong enemy was wasted on Uchiha Seiichiro. It felt like a complete loss. Uchiha's gaze lingered on the 3 shurikens thrown by Uchiha Ci, then he looked away. He saw the thin threads wrapped around the shurikens that missed. If he hadn't intervened, Uchiha Seiichiro would have teleported there, and Uchiha Ci would have pulled the thread. If that kid were ruthless, Seiichiro would be dead. Uchiha Setsuna frowned. Studying Uchiha Ci, he had a strange feeling. It was as if Uchiha Ci had manipulated him into stopping Uchiha Seiichiro. This guy's shuriken skills were something. Your name is Uchiha Ci, right? Uchiha asked. Yes, that's me. Uchiha nodded. Uchiha narrowed his eyes, walked to the campfire, sat down, and waved Uchiha over. Come here. Alright, let's get started.